So it is time for my Premier League predictions. I've already done my Championship ones. You can go check those out if you haven't already. Let's waste no time. Let's get ready to laugh at these horrendous takes. Let's get into it, and starting with the relegation battle. Now, I think there's two teams which I'm pretty sure are going to be in those bottom two spots, and it's Southampton and it is Leicester, and in 20th I'm going with Southampton, not just because I'm a Portsmouth fan. Fourth in the Championship last season, 87 points. 10 points off first place, conceded 63 goals, 22 more than Leicester, and ultimately an inexperienced manager in Russell Martin, who I personally don't think's Premier League quality. They've made some decent additions. Harbour Bellis is a good signing, Flynn Downs, Brereton Diaz, and bringing in experience, with Charlie Taylor and Adam Lallana will certainly help in their fight to survive in the Premier League, but I just don't think they will be good enough. How much of that is bias? I don't know, but I'm going to go for Southampton in 20th. Then in 19th, I have the winners of last year's Championship, Leicester City. Obviously lost Enzo Maresca, who delivered that promotion, lost Dewsbury Hall, who was very integral to that promotion, 12 goals and 14 assists last season. A potential points deduction on the horizon. Steve Cooper coming in, who I rate as a manager. He did well at Forest, but whether he's good enough to keep them up, especially with the points deduction, I'm not sure. Fatawu a good signing. They've made some other decent signings, but ultimately I think they will not be good enough. And then this 18th spot I think is going to be very close, so I'm just going to chuck a bunch of teams in there for now. I think it'll be Ipswich, Brentford and Forest. I'm going to leave Everton out of it. I think these three teams, I could see any of these going down. With Forest, I just think their squad is way too good to go down. Gibbs White, Chris Wood, Anthony Elanga, Callum Hudson-Odoi, I think they're going to be too good. Now, between Brentford and Ipswich, I think Brentford are lacking a lot of squad depth, but they were 11th place in the second half of last season, so if they can keep that form going into this one, if they can keep Tony, they should be fine, but it also kind of does look like it's one injury away from disaster for them, but I do think they will strengthen before the end of the window. As for Ipswich, they brought in Amari Hutchinson, who was really good on loan last season, Jacob Greaves from Hull, Liam Delap, I think he could have a good season, Muric in goal as well. But I just think the experience of Thomas Frank, the experience of Brentford will just keep them up. And that means, again, all three promoted teams going straight back down, which is a bit annoying and kind of shows where the Premier League is right now. I do think Ipswich will give it a great go though. Kieran McKenna's an absolutely brilliant manager. I have no doubt he'll be in the Premier League in the 25-26 season, no matter what. So then, as I said, 16th Forest. I'm kind of unsure about Nuno at Forest, but like I said, that squad's too good. Lots of money for Elliot Anderson. I think he's an exciting signing. Spent in 15th. I'm going to put this kind of mid-table spot because these kind of could be in any order. So it's these sorts of teams. I'm just going to put them all in like that. So yeah, I think honestly any of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams could be in any order. But I think just because of the possible points deduction, I'm going to go for Everton. They were really solid defensively. 4th least goals conceded last season. But Onana is going to be a huge loss in midfield. And I just worry up front if Calvert-Lewin can get firing or not. If he can, I think they could have a really good season. But again, the points deduction is always a worry. Up next, I think I'm going to stick with Wolves there. They've got a good squad. I really rate Gary O'Neill, but they've lost really big players in Neto and Kilman. Rodrigo Gomez been brought in, Lima as well, Tommy Doyle, but ultimately I just don't think they can be good enough to push on from that mid-table spot. Then I'm going to go with Bournemouth. Now obviously Slanky's a huge loss. They have brought in Luis Sinisterra from Leeds, and there's Unal, who is injured at the moment, but Araujo from Barcelona, not that one, but another one. I think they probably do need another striker now Slanky's gone, especially as Unal's injured, but Semenyo can do a job up there for sure. I think they've got a good squad of players, and if Iraola can get them firing like they did at parts of last season, they could be pushing on even higher up here, but going to stick them there for now. Then Brighton and Fulham. I'm torn because Brighton's probably the most unpredictable team in the league this season. They could honestly be up here, they could be down here. This new manager, Fabian Hersler, inexperience in England, inexperience in the top flight, never managed in the top flight. Very interesting tactics. Gross is a huge loss as well. They've brought in some interesting players in, Minter, Gruder, etc. But I'm actually going to put Fulham up there, which might be a surprise because they've lost probably their most important player in recent seasons for them in João Paulinho, but we said the same thing when they lost Mitrovic, and Marco Silva still managed to, keep that squad going and keep them and keeps pushing them up, and I think they're going to push up again into 11th. Lots of transfers, the creative players, and they've added to that with the Mel Smith Rowe. Sessegnon on a free as well. Smart bit of business. So Brighton in 12th and Fulham in 11th. Well, I think the Premier League's kind of moved on from this big six. You know, it's obviously still there, but the top six that it was always, I think it's now the top 8 with the additions of Newcastle and Aston Villa in recent seasons. And I just can't see anyone getting into that top 8 other than them. Obviously, I mean, Palace, if it was going to be any, it would be Palace and West Ham. And those are who I've got 10th and 9th. Palace obviously had a strong end to last season with Glasner, and I think they'll continue it into this season. But Elise's a huge loss. Gaze, if they lose Gay, he could be a huge loss. But time recording, not gone yet. In fact, I just got a notification from Sky Sports saying that Crystal Palace reject the 3rd bid from Newcastle. So not happening at the moment. They have signed Sarr from Marseille, who obviously isn't an Elise replacement, but could be decent. Mateta will obviously take time to come back after just being at the Olympics. They could have a bit of a slow start, but I think they will get into that top half. Then in 9th place, I've gone for West Ham. Definitely the best transfer window of any team in the Premier League this summer. Kilman, Somerville, Fjordkrok, Wan-Bissaka, so many brilliant signings. They're so close to, you know, challenging for Europe, but like I said, I just can't see any of those 8 teams dropping out. I think also it might take time for the new manager to click. Never smooth sailing when a new manager comes in, so that could be another factor, but I think they've got such a good squad coming into the season. So then these are the top 8, as I was saying, and I think will be the top 8 for the foreseeable future. But which order? Well, that's definitely more questionable. And in 8th, I'm going to go for Aston Villa. Missing out on Europe, I do just think being in the Champions League this season could, like we saw with Newcastle last season, could just hinder their ambitions for this season. Obviously, they've made some smart additions in Onana, Maatsen, Philogene, Illing Jr., but do you just think they will struggle to get back into those European spots? I think they probably have the second best manager in the league in Unai Emery, but I think they're just going to miss out with the Champions League football playing a big factor in that. So moving on into 7th, and I think any team from Aston Villa upwards could get into the Champions League spots, but in 7th, I'm going to go for Chelsea. Obviously, got Enzo Maresca in charge now. Is he better than Pochettino? Probably not. Inexperienced, but it's fine because he knows Pep, so that makes him the best manager in the world. Chelsea did struggle defensively last season, conceded 1.7 goals per game, 12th worst in the division, only 8 clean sheets all season as well. They'll be hoping to improve on that. They have signed Pedro Neto from Wolves, Kieran Dewsbury Hall from Leicester, but I mean the squad's absolutely ginormous, like comically big. Moving on into 6th place, and I'm going to go with Manchester United. Just missing out on Champions League, getting into the Europa League spots. Obviously signed Lenny Yoro, already injured. That's Manchester United for you. Delict as well, Xerxes and Mazraoui. Some good signings there, but ultimately I just think that Ten Hag's men won't quite have what it takes to get up there. Obviously last season they would have done a lot better had it not been for those injuries, and I think we can assume that this season they won't have as bad an injury crisis as they did last season, but I just think it's more just the teams above them are too good rather than them being not good enough. So in 5th, just missing out on the Champions League spots. One of these 3, I'm going to go for Newcastle in 5th place. I rate Eddie Howe. I think now that they don't have Champions League football, they can focus on the league. I think that will play to their advantage a lot. Signed Lewis Hall, Osula, and I think they can have a really good season. I think Alexander Isak up front will be crucial. Anthony Gordon. I think they've got a really good squad, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if they got into the Champions League again. So in 4th, I'm going to go for Spurs, and in 3rd, I'm going to go for Liverpool, I think, yeah. Spurs, obviously some good business. Dom Solanke from Bournemouth, good signing. Archie Gray from Leeds, another one. Now Postecoglou's had a season to get his style of play across to the players. I think now they can build on that and get into the Champions League. As for Liverpool, thought I was going to put them lower, but excuse the pun, I think they'll slot right into the new system. Oh my god, that's rubbish. Not too busy transfer-wise. Looks like they're going to sign Mamardashvili, but he won't come into the first team for a couple of years. Nothing to write home about transfer-wise, but I do think that, you know, as opposed to what we've seen in like the post-Ferguson era, the post-Wenger era, where these teams have struggled for a while, I think Arne Slot can kind of just continue what Klopp started. And I think they will not challenge for the title, but if anyone was going to challenge these 2, it would be Liverpool, I think. So then, who will finish in 1st? Who will finish in 2nd? It's going to be tight, I can tell you that. And my head's telling me that it will be Manchester City because it's Manchester City and it's Pep Guardiola and it's Haaland and it's Rodri and they've won it 4 times in a row. But something tells me that Arsenal might just do it. And I think that something is their defence. So solid defensively last season, the best defence in the league. And they've gone and strengthened an area where they were already really strong. They've brought in Calafiori. They've got Riot on a permanent. And I think that Arsenal... Do I? Yeah, let's go with it. It'll be interesting. They can't win 5 in a row, can they? So City in second. It will be tight, but I'm going to say that Arsenal will win the league. City haven't looked, outstanding in pre-season or anything. They won the Community Shield, but drew with United in normal time. They brought in Savinho from Troyes, Brazilian winger. Could have been exciting signing. I just think that now Arsenal have had these 2 seasons of being in a title race to, learn from it, learn from their mistakes. I think now they can finally push on and win the whole league. There you go. That is my 24-25 Premier League predictions in full. So let's run through them. In 20th, I've got Southampton getting relegated with them. I've got Leicester and Ipswich. So the 3 promoted teams going straight back down, which is just boring, but that's what I think. Just staying up, I've got Brentford then in 16th, Forest, Everton in 15th, Wolves in 14th, Bournemouth in 13th, then Brighton, Fulham, Palace, West Ham, and Aston Villa just missing out on the European spots. Chelsea getting into the Conference League, Manchester United and Newcastle in the Europa League in 5th and 6th. Then in the Champions League, Spurs, Liverpool and City, and then winning the league, Arsenal Football Club. So there you have it. Let me know yours in the comments below. I'd love to see them. Make sure to berate mine and tell me that I put your club too low. Can't wait to read those. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.